Hello. Today I want to offer commentary on a far more disturbing trend. I know I promised very much not to get into the outrage merchant business. And so the message I'm giving here isn't to outrage people who agree with me. I really want this message to reach the people who disagree with me. I'd like people to engage on this topic and actually sit down and struggle with the issues and think about them and figure out what to do about them. See, the last few days, there's been growing talk, largely pressure from countries like Estonia, to cut off tourism visas to citizens of Russia in relation to the war in Ukraine. Now, there may be valid reasons to do this, and as far as cutting off tourism visas, I don't have a dog in that fight. There's room to disagree. I don't really care about that part per se. However, one of the things I noticed during the Trump administration was the way in which a tourism visa ban often would get escalated into ways of trying to kick permanent residents out of the country. People who were Iranian nationals who had permanent residency in the United States would basically be told, don't leave the country because if you do, you're not coming back. Was there a law change to get rid of their residency? No. This was done by executive order and basically twisting things around to just try to strong-arm people into leaving. So the one real concern I have about these is the possibility of it escalating to kicking out colleagues and neighbors who just happen to have a Russian passport. Because I think that's a distinct possibility. And when I've engaged with people over this topic, what I've usually found is that most of the people who support a tourism ban also support kicking out foreign workers and the like. At least that's my experience. Or at least they won't commit to oppose it. Now, I have so many thoughts about that possibility, but it's worth noting that Estonia now, 2 days after the first conversations on this, has taken steps to start to evict those with student visas and restrict the rights of people who are residents of other EU countries who may have short-term work rights as a result to travel into Estonia. So in other words, they've taken now the preliminary step to do exactly what I've been afraid this escalation is going to lead to. You know, these people may be your neighbors. They may be your colleagues. They're people who may have built a life in a country like Germany. And basically, to support kicking people out just because they have a passport of a country you disagree with. Hey, my passport's American. We could go over all the things that the U.S. does. In fact, I'm sure, if we're going to do that, why not have kicked out Americans in 2003, right? Nobody honestly thinks the Iraq War was justified, right? It was an unjustified act of aggression, wasn't it? But there are a couple of other reasons that this possibility, I think, needs to be opposed, and people who support kicking out foreign workers need to be encouraged to hear the other side of things, is that when you make one worker, particularly one foreign worker, vulnerable, you're going to make every other foreign worker vulnerable. When you make foreign workers vulnerable, you're going to make domestic workers vulnerable. This is bad news for everybody. These are people who may have been living and working in Europe for years, who may have built lives here. And demanding political litmus tests or just simply kicking out on the basis of nationality is just wrong. It cannot be allowed to happen. So now I'm going to make this personal. Like many Americans, my ancestors come from a bunch of different places. One of those places was Spain. And in 1492, my ancestors were kicked out of Spain. Why? Because they had the wrong religion. And because they had the wrong religion, they were understood to be in league with the evil enemy, being the Saracens and the Moors. My ancestors, most Jews in Spain, of course, who were kicked out, they went to various parts of the Middle East. Large portions of them ended up in what is today Israel. My ancestor didn't do that. They went east and north, and they ended up settling in the area of the Russian Empire, what is now Latvia. They entered into service with the army, became a Jewish military family, which was fairly unusual, and just before World War I, immigrated to the United States. So, for me, watching the talk of trying to kick people out who've built lives in places, who have become parts of communities, just simply because you don't like which passport they're holding, or some other detail like that, is just not something I can stand by. And heck, if you're that worried about everybody who has Russian heritage, that includes me. You might as well come after me too. At any rate, that's all I have to say. If you see people pushing these ideas, please direct them to this video. Ask them to look at it. Ask them to wrestle with the issues. It might not change anybody's mind all at once, but we gotta do something.